as part of this trilateral cooperation, as we call it, to transfer some of the very rich and long-standing knowledge on how to tap into that potential of cashew apple, pack this and transfer it here to Ghana. This is a little bit the institutional framework that we as ComCashew and the before mentioned partners are working under. And in the first instance, I will ask Jerry Anim to present this trilateral cooperation, the overall setup, who are the involved partners, and what have we achieved so far. Afterwards, I will give the floor to a very distinguished consultancy that ComCashew has been working with for a long time, that we have tasked to take a very critical look at the overall market for specific cashew apple products, in this case, notably juice, and test out various business models that could be workable. So in the second part of this webinar today, Michael Arnoldus from Sense for Development, plus two of his colleagues, will be presenting a very comprehensive overview over the market situation and underlying promising business model that will help turn the huge potential that the apple has as an additional income source, income generating activity for farmers. Plus, it equally has the potential of actually kickstarting a whole other level of transformatory processes when it comes to using this product. We are very excited to have Michael present us these insights as the second part of this overall webinar today. But as I mentioned before, in the first instance, I would like to give the floor to Jerry Anim from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to provide us a short overview of the before mentioned trilateral cooperation and where we stand with regards to this. Jerry, can I pass over to you, please?
Thank you, Florian. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Jerry.
We can hear you.
Okay, right. So I'm sharing my screen. Good. So this afternoon, we are looking at turning potential into opportunity, business model for cashew apple industry. And we are looking at this in respect of the trilateral cooperation between Ghana, Germany, and Brazil. So I will be giving a brief presentation on this cooperation agreement. To start with, I'll give some brief introduction about the cashew fruit. I will then look at the trilateral cooperation projects and some results so far. The cashew fruit comprises the apple and the nuts. The apple is also called the false fruit, whilst the nut is called the true fruit. The apple has been found to be highly nutritious and has very high vitamin C content, higher than citrus. The apple also possesses an antibacterial properties. It is very potent in treating stomach ulcer and gastritis. The apple also possesses antioxidants, and with all these properties, it is widely used in the cosmetic industry. Even though the apple contains these properties, in most cases in West Africa, of which Ghana is included, we tend to cultivate the cashew fruit purposely for the nuts and leaving the apples to go waste. However, the apples can be processed into various products which are also beneficial to us. And at the end of the day, will give farmers an additional income. On my screen are some of the products that can be obtained from the apple. And these are clarified juice, the cashew syrup, the cashew pulp. We also have the cashew creamy and the cashew jelly. Apart from these products, we can also get alcoholic beverages from the fruits. We can get brandy, we can get wine from the fruits. Also, we can also obtain industrial alcohol from the fruits. On the next screen that you are seeing are products from the cashew apple. With all these products that can be obtained from the apple, in most cases, like I indicated earlier, the apples are left to go waste in African producing countries. Based on this, the Trilateral Cooperation Project was formulated between Ghana, Brazil, and Germany. And this trilateral cooperation was to help improve cashew planting material and byproduct processing in Ghana. The specific objectives of the cooperation is to complement technical know-how, in this case, particularly the apple industry, and to apply knowledge, skills, and experiences from the other partners to the cashew apple industry, and also accelerate research on high-yielding cashew varieties and varieties which are suitable for the apple industry. And the last one, to encourage total product utilization and marketing in Ghana. The major activities under the cooperation are exchange of germplasm and development of high-yielding cashew clones well suited for the apple processing industry, and also improve efficiency of cashew processing technologies and byproduct utilization. Based on these major activities, 5 new cashew clones were received from Embrapa. Embrapa is a Brazilian research institute in Brazil, which is responsible for development and research into cashew. These clones are being evaluated in Ghana. When the clones were received from Embrapa in Brazil, they were acclimatized in our stations in order to make sure that they are well adapted to the local condition before they are sent to the field. After the acclimatization, these clones are being evaluated in the field. The evaluation is important because these are clones that came in from different environments in Brazil. The environment within which these clones were are different from the environment that pertains in our country. And for this reason, they need to be evaluated for us to ascertain the genetic by environment effects on these clones. These are the clones that were received from Embrapa in Brazil. In fact, the clones are doing very well in Ghana here. On my screen, this is the clones in Bole. And in Ghana, the northern part of the country is a bit drier and the soil conditions there are not that good as compared to the transition and then the southern parts. Even though with this condition, harsher condition as compared to the transition and the southern belt, you can see that the clones are doing very well, even in the northern part of the country. Also, in order to progress, to make use of the apples as our aim, with the assistance and support from the Brazil technical expert from Embrapa, 2 training manuals have been developed in order to help build the capacity of stakeholders in the apple industry. These training manuals are harvest and post-harvest handling of cashew apple. Because cashew apple is a non-climateric fruit and highly perishable, handling of these apples for processing need to be handled very well. And for that matter, the harvest and post-harvest handling of cashew apple material. Also, the cashew apple processing technology, a manual on cashew apple processing technology has been developed with the support from the Embrapa team. On my screen are the 2 manuals that I just spoke about. These manuals have been used to train some stakeholders. So far, 220 interested persons has been trained on the cashew apple processing. First, 20 trainers has been trained by an expert from Embrapa on how to on the processing technologies and how to process the apple into various products. Thereafter, with the assistance of the Embrapa team, 200 interested persons, value chain actors, were also trained on the processing of the cashew apple. These 200 were made up of farmers, artisanal fruit processors, and some MOFA officials. The artisanal processors that were trained, some took up the challenge to try their hands on the apple processing. And it is interesting to note that those that have been trained, some have started processing the apple into some of the products like the juice, the jellies, and the others that I mentioned earlier on. In my concluding remarks, in order to progress with the idea of making opportunity from the cashew apple, we have to create awareness through fairs and other exhibitions about the products that can be obtained from cashew apple. Also, increase cashew apple product consumption in the country. When we do all this, it will help to increase the income of our cashew farmers. The cashew fruit makes up of 90% of the total weight of the cashew apple is made up of 90% of the total weight of the cashew fruit. And currently, our farmers are only benefiting from 10%, which is the nut, leaving the 90% to go waste. For this reason, if you are able to make use of the apple and the farmers begin to get income from the apple as well, it means that farmers are going to increase the income that they get from the fruit. So this is my short presentation about the trilateral projects between Ghana, Brazil, and Germany, and how far that we have gone. Thank you.
Okay. The host has stopped it. I can't start my video. I will be talking. I can't start my video. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, Jerry. This is very much appreciated. Thank you very much for these insights into the framework in which we are trying to get the comprehensive expertise that Brazil possesses, not only on cashew, but in particular on how to valorize the potential of the cashew apple in economically suitable terms. So far, and this is also maybe a bit of a jump ahead towards the second part of our program, we will be asking also the Michael Arnoldos and his colleagues from Sense from Sense to illustrate us how this actual potential can be turned into an opportunity. In international agriculture, there's always a lot of talk about potential, but the question on how we can transform potential into opportunity very often is not straightforward. And without entering too much into philosophical discussions, I would very much like to ask Michael Arnoldus and his team to provide us with a short sketch on how they analyze the overall market, the global market for cashew apple, how this market can be tapped into by using the apples that are already here in Africa, in Ghana, and what needs to be done in order to turn this potential actually into opportunity. I know this is a big task, but this is why we picked also Sense in order to take this up. Michael, can I ask you to take over now and provide the outlines of your findings? Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Shall I just share my screen? I think I'll try to share my screen for the presentation. Let me first. Okay. I wanted to turn on my camera, but that is disabled. Let me share the screen. Share. Start my video. Okay. Right. I hope, can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. Okay, so so what I would like to welcome, by the way, everyone. I saw there was like 60 participants, probably from all around the world. So I'm actually dialing in from South Africa at the moment, where we are based. So our business is Sense. We've been doing consultancy work for a long time for GIZ in many countries, and working on this project is actually a team of 6 people. So it's myself and 2 colleagues in the call, Barry and Gaga. Then we have a processing expert who used to manage juice plants called Gregory. We have a marketing expert, Kerry Kidd. We have somebody in Brazil who is gathering experiences there because, of course, we could not travel. And then we also have a local market research in Ghana who just last week completed 6 panel discussions with consumers and tasting of different juices. Okay, so I would like it's kind of 2 different blocks. Is a bit the introduction methodology. So what are we trying to do? Lessons from markets around the world. And then also which markets and business models now should we be focusing on when it comes to cashew apple. So I think the objective of this project was, develop 4 economically feasible business models for cashew apple processing in Ghana. And preferably 2 small scale and 2 large scale models. That was what was asked. And we had a few starting hypotheses. National view was from the first time that I was asked by Florian to present something on or do something on cashew apple is I've been hearing about cashew apple processing for about 10 years in Africa. I've been hearing the story for a long time. I've never seen anyone get further than doing in their house 20 bottles or secondhand glass bottles, recycled bottles filled by hand. I've never seen anything going beyond that. So its reaction was, this is going to be a very difficult to look at this properly. Then my other comment was, the only country that I know of where they've actually managed to make a mainstream product out of cashew apple is Brazil. I've been to Brazil 2 times before, And I've actually, tasted cashew apple. I've bought it in the supermarkets. I know it's a mainstream product there. So we need to understand what are they doing in Brazil. So the research questions that we came up with, a number of them is, what cashew apple products are popular in Brazil and how are they produced? What are the business models in cashew apple processing in Brazil? And also in India, part of it, we also wanted to have a look what's happening in India. In particular, how is the collection of the apples organized? Because we know that the biggest challenge is that as soon as when the apple has fallen on the floor, as it happens in Africa, it's already fermenting. You could do nothing with it. So in Africa, we've taught farmers that the apple needs to drop. Then the kernel is ripe, but that does not work. So how are they doing that in Brazil? And also we know that as soon as you separate the apple from the nuts, I think you've got 12 hours before it ferments. Then what are experiences with cashew apple in other African countries? Is there an EU market for cashew apple juice? Was another question. Is there an opportunity in the local market in Ghana? What business models for cashew apple processing could be economic in Ghana? So these were our research questions. So what did we have in mind pre-COVID? We're going to Brazil. We have a partner consultant in India. We're going to visit processors and farmers and points of sale and shops. Then we're going to interview EU importers of juice and concentrate who are going to come to the World Global Conference in Cape Town anyway and speak to bottlers and blenders. Then we're going to do consumer research with focus groups and tasting panels. We're going to have a look at the experience of Pinora, which is a juice factory in Ghana which has made cashew apple concentrate. We're going to look at artisanal processing in Benin. We're going to do business modeling, interviews with processing experts. So that's what we had in mind. But of course, Corona had different plans. So India is still in lockdown. We can't do research there. We could not go to Brazil. We could not be present in the market research in Ghana. So lots of issues, basically. But nevertheless, we are trying to force ahead. So the lessons learned from markets around the world. Let's move on to that. Okay, so Brazil. So I did a number of interviews in Brazil, and we're actually waiting for a more detailed study to come out next week. Yes, there's talk of lots of products with cashew that you can make with cashew, but the only thing that's really is mainstream in Brazil is cashew apple juice. So if you know that if in Brazil they only do juice, that's probably where you have to focus on, right? Now, there are 4 basic product formats for juice. So there's casuina, which is a clarified cashew apple juice, which is artisanally produced in the Northeast, which is the cashew region, and which is bottled in recycled beer bottles for a local Northeast Brazil market. So that's the first product. The second product is mainstream juice for the national market, and it's industrially processed, manufactured from concentrate. So you have a juicing plant that does a concentrate, that puts it in 210-liter drums, and then sells it on to a bottler, which is maybe in Sao Paulo, and puts it in a nice Tetra Pak. Maybe blends it with other juices, but that's an industrial product that you can buy in a supermarket. Then something else, which is quite interesting, is frozen juice portions. And it's more for home consumption. It's for juice bars, which are very popular in Brazil. You can go to a street corner in Rio, and they can make you any kind of juice. And when you need, usually it's fresh, but there's a few things like acai and cashew apple, which are actually coming from frozen packs. And then something else that we saw was a carbonated canned cashew juice. You could say it's a alcohol-free cider, which you manufacture industrially by taking a concentrate and adding soda water. Now, one big eye-opener for us is that the reason that artisanal juice works in Brazil, but not in Africa, is that there is no deposit on beer bottles. The beer bottles are for free. It's not like in Africa where there's a deposit on it, where you have to give it back to the beer company to get a new set of glass bottles. So recycled bottles are cheap, they're plenty, they're easy to find. Whereas in Africa, you are always limited by the amount of stained glass bottles that you can find. Something else that we learned is, yes, Brazil is very mainstream, but they also only still do 30% of cashew apples processing. So still 70% of cashew apples are also not processed in Brazil. Cashew apple supply comes mostly from small farmers. That was also a big question I had. Is it that they can get these apples without fermentation because it comes from a big 100-hectare estate? But actually, no, it comes from small farmers. So that means you can actually teach small farmers on how to harvest this properly and, organize the logistics from small farmers to an industrial plant. The other thing that we've learned is that these cashew apples are harvested from trees in the morning. So they don't wait for the apple to drop, they harvest from the tree. Then they have the apple with the nut together, and that's separated from the nut, let's say early afternoon, after they've stopped picking. And then it's collected by a truck from the factory, who then processes it during the evening and the night to make sure it does not ferment. Then there are also pre-processors. So when the farmers are too far away from a large juice plant, you have a pre-processor. That's a small mobile juice company who may do pineapple and mango, depending on the season. But in cashew season, they will press and stabilize that juice, and they will do it in drums or bulk bags. They reserve this in it, and every 2, 3, 4 days, they ship it in bulk to the larger plant, who will then make it into a concentrate. So that's actually an interesting model that also Pinora in Ghana has tried. And then finally, we learned that, yes, in Brazil, cashew apple is mainstream, but they are actually not exporting this product. So they haven't cracked the European market for cashew apple either, despite them having these industrial companies that export thousands of tons of mango and orange juice to Europe. They are not exporting cashew apple at the moment. Then we did our market review. And I think what is very important to realize, and this is a lesson we've learned over the past 2 or 3 years, is that if you talk about juice, there are actually 2 distinctly different business models. In Africa, somebody tries to start juice, and they normally think that you need to take the fruit, you squeeze it, you bottle it, you sell it to a consumer via a distributor. We do everything in one. But actually, this is not how the juice world works. You have juicing companies, and what they do is they juice amounts of few fruits that are close to the plant, and they do this for sale in bulk. So they will do mango, or they will do mango and pineapple, or pineapple and orange. They'll do 4,000 tons, 10,000 tons. They will put this in barrels, and they will sell this to an actual bottler. So this is to business company. They don't sell to us. Now the juice bottler, he never even touches the fruit. He's got nothing to do with fruit. He just buys concentrates and juices, blends this, and he will bottle this in a nice bottle with his own nice brand, and then sell it via distributors and wholesalers to bars and restaurants and supermarkets. So that's what we have to keep in mind. Now, both of these business models are large-scale operations. You need 2.5 to 5 million euros investment. A Tetra Pak line for just one pack size is 4 million euro. The other thing we know is that the juice industry is a blending game. What you do as a juice company is you blend lots of different flavors from different countries to get a stable flavor that is the whole year round at a low cost and that the consumer likes. So you blend a variety of fruit to get interesting flavor at the lowest cost. And you may also blend Brazilian juice with Ghanaian juice to kind of get a stable kind of flavor. Then there are 3 types of juices for blends. So we talked about that the juice is a blend, and in South Africa or even in Ghana, if you buy a pack of cereals, you will find that in the back it says it is apple and or grape and or pineapple and mango and guava and all together. So the juicing game, how does it work? You have a base ingredient that, they call it the base. That's a cheap and neutral flavored fruit. It's an apple, maybe an orange, a pear, a grape. It's just sweet, it's cheap, it's 60-70% of your juice. That's your carrier. Then you have a differentiation ingredient, something that gives you a unique flavor or that helps you claim that it is mango juice. But that is expensive, so you don't want to use too much of it. That's your pineapple, a mango, a passion fruit, a grapefruit, a cranberry. So if you buy mango juice in Europe, there's maybe 10, 15, 20% mango in it at the most. The rest is a cheap base. Then you have a functional benefit ingredient. So some juices will say we are antioxidants, we are high in vitamin C, we've added that's something to make an additional health claim or something. The challenge now is, how do you get 100% fruit juice with an interesting flavor and ingredients at the lowest cost? That is the game. And the other thing to realize is that actually the juice market on a whole is a bit in decline, because people are worried about sugar and they're starting to realize, yeah, it's a fruit juice, but actually it's also just sugar. So we see that the concentrate and the traditional flavors is in decline. However, if you have straight juice, so you're not concentrating it, evaporating the water, it's freshly squeezed, it's tropical flavors, it's organic, they still grow. But yeah, if you do traditional orange juice concentrate, that is a decreasing market. So all of that also has to do with this belief of health. You know, when it's a fresh juice, when you haven't evaporated the water out, it still has all the vitamins, etc. in it. Then what is quite interesting is that we try to find out what has been the experience with cashew juice in the global juice market or the EU juice market. Because what we noticed is when we were speaking with these large importers like Deuler, Refresco, people are doing 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 tons of juice a year. Is that they said, yeah, cashew, yeah, I think it was tried, but it didn't really work. So we tried to find out, you know, what happened there. So about 10 years ago, large companies have cashew apple juice products. They thought maybe this cashew apple could be a cheap base. It could be an alternative for apple concentrate, which is mostly China. And that carries a risk because one origin, it's China. There's always worries about food adulteration. So they were mostly trying to explore cashew as a low-cost base. And this was, from what we know, done in Vietnam, in India, and also Brazil. But it was mostly unsuccessful. And we think, and from what we hear, the main reason is that a juice base is a high volume, low margin business. You're not talking about 5 tons an hour. You need to do 25, 50 tons an hour. But it's difficult to gather the enormous volumes of cashew apples for this model because it's a byproduct, it's dispersed, it ferments very easily. So it's actually not very compatible together. Then in the US, they also did tests with cashew apple as a flavor. So as this differentiation ingredient to give it, you know, something unique, to bring it more positive. These tests, they say, were not successful. People didn't really like, strange. And all of these experiences have tainted the name of the product. So people remember that it failed, but they can't really tell you why. However, what we also believe is that the market is much more experimental than 10 years ago. You know, there's many more different flavors of juice on the market. So it could actually be ripe for cashew as a functional differentiation ingredient. The fact that it didn't work 10 years ago doesn't mean it's not going to work now. I mean, coconut water has become popular. You know, lots of different things have changed. I mean, if you would say 10 years ago that you would sell celery juice, people would say, you're stupid, you're crazy. No one's going to drink that stuff. But it's happening, it's selling. You know, beetroot, carrot juice, all of that. So, yeah, all of that. However, you would need to find an importer or a compound house who is interested in investing in this product development, who can do this market research with you. And that's a long trajectory. So unless you have one of these strategic players who's interested in trying this again, it is difficult. You can't just say, I'm going to make cashew juice and just throw it on the market. Then experience with cashew juice in Africa. That was the other area that we looked at. So I think, as I've mentioned, the only thing that we've seen happening in Africa with cashew juice is artisanal casuina. So this clarified juice. And it's available in Ghana, but particularly driven in Benin with support from Technoserve, but they all face the same challenge. So they use recycled glass bottles, which are in short supply and expensive. The production volumes are limited, by the availability of glass bottles. The unit costs are high, which makes the product expensive. And then investing in cheaper packaging requires serious investment in packaging line and a proper factory. But most entrepreneurs cannot do this. They are too small for this. So it would require to produce year-round using a frozen or aseptic, become a bottler if you want to get a better life. And then you require marketing skills because consumers do not know the products. And then, once your scale increases, your sourcing of apples becomes an issue. So the conclusion is that this casuina model is very difficult to scale and therefore to absorb serious amounts of the apple. You would need to change something fundamentally in the packaging issue there. I think, again, in Benin, we have 5-6 people that I know of that are bottling it. It's been like that for 5-6 years. Their volumes are not really growing. So that's an issue. There's been one interesting experience with Cashew Africa in industrial concentrate. In Ghana, Pinora, which is a orange juice concentrate and pineapple juice plant, has manufactured cashew apple concentrate for the Brazilian markets. And they've done it in 2 different ways. By sourcing the apple and then transporting it to the plant themselves, but the plant is not actually in the main cashew region. This was too difficult and expensive. That didn't work. That was the thing they tried the first year. Then a year later, they tried to have a pre-processor, which was Mim Cashew. And that worked, but ultimately the business was, I don't think, sufficiently profitable for Mim, and there was only one, so it kind of stopped. But the production was profitable for Pinora, it was actually transported to and sold on the Brazilian market, this cashew apple concentrate. However, we think that one of the issues was that there was one preprocessor that was very large in scale. It was almost like an industrial scale of 5 tons an hour, which makes your sourcing area quite large, and then also the barriers to entry for the business very high. So the ideal would be maybe to have smaller 1 ton an hour kind of preprocessors, and you have 5 or 6, dispersed over a larger area where more people can feed into these preprocessors. And also Pinora is not completely dependent on one supplier feeding into their plant. Then final experience I would like to share is the results from Ghanaian consumer research. So we did 6 focus groups. So these are discussion groups of, I think, 1 to 2 hours with 6 participants, where we did a variety of discussions around juice and then zooming into cashew and what they know about cashew, and also a tasting of a variety of products. Some locally manufactured, some blends, some pure cashew juice, some products sourced from Brazil, carbonated cashew, just to get an idea of what they think of the products. So we saw that Ghanaian consumers have some interesting mental associations with cashew apple. First of all, they say they feel that cashew is good for you. When you talk about cashew apple, they don't know the apple, but they know the nuts. And they think that the nut is beneficial to your health. It's good for recovery. Parents have told children for generations that cashew nuts are healthy. So when you say cashew apple juice, they say, well, it's cashew, must be healthy. The second thing is that it's natural. Opportunity to taste the natural fruit. And if it's from Ghana, then it's probably, it hasn't been concentrated. There's probably no preservatives in it, no additives. So it's probably a natural, again, healthy product. And then it is both novel and familiar. So they don't know the apple, but they know the nut. And younger people particularly, they seem interested to try something new, whereas older people see it as something around health or goodness. So that was quite interesting, because we've also had lots of people telling us that no, in Africa we taught people that they mustn't eat the apple because it's poisonous, and therefore people think that you can't eat the apple, so juice will be difficult. But we have not heard anything like that in Ghana, or at least in in Accra, where we did the market research. Then what was very interesting is that actually the real winner is a blend with tropical juices. So the Brazilian sample scored high on appearance. They liked the color, the clarity, but not really on flavor and aroma. Then we had 100% cashew juice that was made by Cashew, and it actually scored better on flavor and aroma than Brazil, but not so great on color and appearance, and it was a bit cloudy. The best scores, however, are the tropical blends. So what seems to be that consumers want a familiar natural flavor base of, for example, a mango. Then you add a ginger because it helps to mask also the weird cashew flavor a bit, which they're not used to. It's a bit of an acquired taste, I think. And then I like the idea of cashew because, yeah, that's probably very healthy. So if you make that blend, it's familiar enough for people to like it. It's interesting. You're masking the weird cashew flavor a bit, and it's healthy at the same time. What we also found very funny is that in Ghana, apple is seen as exotic or pear, whereas, from a European or South African background, that's a cheap, simple juice. For us, mango is exotic. So yeah, the ideal juice combination would be something natural. It's nothing but the fruit. It's 100% juice. We don't add sugar, no added flavors and aromas. Local familiar flavors such as mango, pineapple, orange, and then a punch of goodness. It's wealthy, it's healthy. That's also why you may add some ginger to it. So that seems to be the area. So we feel there could be an opportunity for this kind of juice blends. And maybe as people get used to cashew and it becomes a bit of an acquired taste, then you could maybe move to 100% cashew products. Now, what we also see is that there is space between the two major segments, because what we actually see is that you have a group of juices which consumers see as special occasion. It's a super, it's something exotic. It's expensive, but it is quality. And that's for example, 100% fruit juice or a Coca-Cola in a 30 centiliter bottle or a can. It's something for restaurants, pastors we found very interesting, and ministers. It's for weddings. It's a good taste experience. So there's that segment, people want it, but it's too expensive, only for special occasions. Then there's the mass market drink. That's mostly your B brand sodas. I think in West Africa you have Yuki and those kind of things. It's a nectar. It's a 2-liter Coke. It's refreshment for a snacking moment. It's energy. It's for kids and parties. It's affordable. It's available, but it's not really healthy. And then we think there is maybe you could have a mid-tier price. Something that's a bit cheaper than the imported juices, such as Ceres, where you say, well, it's enjoyment, but it's also a natural product and it's a wellness product. It's good for your health. So, yeah, that could be a direction for product development. So what was quite interesting is when we do this consumer research, we actually ask people to make groupings. So we give them lots of products and we say, okay, can you put together what you think belongs together, and then just give it a name. So we see special occasions on the left, and on the right you see church programs where you see a bit of the cheaper no brand products. Okay, so where does this bring us now in this first part? What products for which markets should we be focusing on? So the EU juice market, if we want to focus on that market, we would need a strategic partner willing to invest in product development. That's a long-term project. It's not a quick win. It's something we would have to look for. Then the Brazilian market for concentrate is an option. Pinora did it successfully. The market was not the problem. The problem was the sourcing of the apples. If you can match the price, you can offer an alternative season and a risk diversification. So that's a short-term opportunity. And yes, still 70% of the apples are not processed in Brazil, but they're probably not close to a factory. And if the cashew season in Brazil is not great, then the existing factories still struggle to get enough apples into that factory. So that's where it would be interesting for them to have an alternative source in Ghana. The local juice market is an option, but it requires a cheaper blended product. So your casuina, artisanal in a second-hand, recycled bottle in small scale or a new glass bottle is too expensive. And you need to make a blend. So that would be an opportunity for a local professional business, a Blue Skies, for example, who can do product development, who can do bottling at low cost, who knows about distribution and marketing, and that would require at least a concentrate or a semi-finished product that comes from, for example, a Pinora. Then casuina could be a premium niche market for artisanal producers, but it requires the bottling issue to be solved. So how can we get this casuina in a cheaper bottle that still looks nice? Then something very interesting is that we looked at cashew apple cider, which definitely has potential. We discussed it with Heineken. We discussed it with a big South African company because it's very big product here in South Africa, ciders. But alcoholic beverages are a bit out of the scope of GIZ. Then we also looked at medical grade ethanol. So can you not just make ethanol for the medicine industry? And there's lots of industrial applications for ethanol. But again, we found that the ethanol market is a very complex, high volume, low margin market because you can pretty much make ethanol from anything. From apples apples, even any kind of fruit, anything that ferments, from potatoes, from wheat, from barley, anything you can make ethanol from. So then the final slide, which business model should be developed to service then there is a part of the thing, that's in front of my title there. Okay, the conclusion, which business model should be developed to service these different markets? So if we say the industrial market, so we're talking about a mass market product, by an industrial bottler. Then we would need an industrial juice plant who produces citrus, pineapple, or mango, or passion fruit. There's an existing plant, adding cashew concentrate as another product for export to Brazil. They could sell it to a local juice bottler, like a Blue Skies, or maybe in the future to Europe. But for that plant to work, we need a semi-industrial pre-processor who supplies this juice to the plant. And to feed that semi-industrial pre-processor, we need aggregators. So we developed a model where harvesters are coming to an orchard and they take the apple with the nut and then they supply the pre-processors. And you may need a local bottling company like a Blue Skies who then purchases those concentrates and blends and makes it into a juice. So those are 4 different models. Then the artisanal market, so, we talked about the casuina, maybe done at a local scale by a small company. We need an artisanal casuina producer who does a range of other juices and uses a contract bottling plant. And then we have developed a model for the contract bottling plant. So that is a service provider who basically provides a service of taking the juice and then bottling it for the small producer at a fee per liter per hour per bottle. So these are the models that later on in the second part of the presentation we would like to present in greater detail. But the contract bottling plant is supposed to solve this bottling issue of the artisanal producer. So that was a lot of information. I think over to the moderator now for questions and answers, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Very, very insightful, detailed, and very rich presentation, which is equally reflecting in already a rising number of questions that we are getting. I looking over at Blessing to make sure that we are evidently organizing and making available all the materials that are ongoing. This is to Bertha Adjoa, your question on the availability of the training materials, and also Laikong Sofal. These things will be shared. You have already provided your email addresses. All of you who are interested in obtaining this material, please address yourself to the organizers and we'll make sure that it's made available, evidently. Michael, there's a question from one of the participants with regards to alcohol production from apples on a small scale businesses. I know that you have excluded it from the actual scope of the mission, but maybe I can ask you to maybe elaborate a little bit on the feasibility of this model on very, very broad strokes, please.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a good question. Yeah, so, what we understood
alcohol production from apples, you were citing the cider before, as it viable for small scale businesses. Is this something that you can contribute towards too, please?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, I definitely think it's very feasible. The reason we did not include it is, I think, because GIZ cannot be seen to support, let's say, alcoholic beverage development. But I think it's definitely feasible. It ferments very well. So you could make a range of drinks out of it. And, I have a neighbor with a still, for example, who makes his own gin. You can make with any kind of feedstock. You can make you can make alcohol. Actually, in South Africa, we have a microbrewery in our village, and there is one large 300-hectare plantation in South Africa of cashew. So it's something that we are going to be experimenting with. And we have a very, very big a brand here called Savannah. It's a very big brand of cider here that's sold everywhere. They are actually very interested in this idea of cashew apple cider as a new flavor kind of thing. So I definitely think it's very feasible. Does that answer the question?
Yes. I think for the time being it will. I'll ask the user Galaxy J4 Plus to manifest him or herself if this is sufficient initially. Very good. For the time being, I'm not seeing. Very good. Okay. Good. There's contributions also from Brazilian experts. Maybe I should also make this very transparent. Amongst the audience, we also have a few distinguished experts that we have the honor of working together as technical experts in the context of the trilateral collaboration. I would like to briefly mention by name Rodolfo Oliveira from Embrapa and Fabio Pavia, both of whom have been instrumental elements in not only establishing the knowledge on cashew apple, but also helping them transferring this knowledge as part of the trilateral cooperation here to Ghana. So the two gentlemen I would like to acknowledge personally here in this context. There's a question, maybe, Michael, you can elaborate a little bit on the absorption capacity. Victor Oliveira, amongst the audience, is questioning, or at least, questioning the absorption capacity of the Brazilian market for exported products, as he sees that the national market is being catered to by national product, especially with an uprise in more area under irrigation, which allows for various cycles throughout the year. Thank you, Victor, for this contribution.
Yeah, so So we're still waiting for more feedback from Brazil to get a better understanding of that market. Who are the players there? Are they undercatered? Are they overcatered? Do I see this as a massive market where we can have every African country producing large amounts of concentrate to sell in Brazil? No, I don't think that's the end game. I see it more as a short-term way of getting maybe cashew apple processing going. But the big win would be to find, I think, together with Brazil, EU markets, US markets, maybe in Asia. I think that would be the big win. And, exporting to Brazil could be an interesting short-term opportunity to maybe do a proof of concept for one factory in Africa or two. But once again, I don't think that there's space for Africa to export, 10,000 tons of concentrate. Not at all. But I'm waiting more detailed analysis on that.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. I think this phased approach that you're explaining makes a lot of sense. I'm scrolling down, so to say, literally, the question. La côté francophone. The question from Madame Giré, who is mentioning that evidently Ivory Coast has been left out of the scope. Madame Giré, I'm hearing your words very well. It had to do with the specific setup in which we undertook this study, that we had to select one local market that we had to place this study under. But evidently, you are very right to say that evidently also if we are looking at production potential, when it comes to the mere availability of product, evidently one cannot think about exploring the apple without taking the big elephant, Ivory Coast, into consideration. I think what this exercise also is looking at is understanding the market, understanding market opportunities, but then the real work also starts once we have identified these market entries, then is to create a alliance of suitable actors for whom in all of these steps they can also see that they can make money out of it and then create this supply chain. So evidently, as we go along, and this is also our mandate as a regional project, also working together with ACA, which is based in Ghana, but evidently also catering to the rest of the African market, is to see where other opportunities are. And evidently, Ivory Coast will not be the last country to be looked upon. And the very wide knowledge and the testing also on university level when it comes to exploration of cashew byproducts in Ivory Coast is well noted, but we thank you very much for bringing it also to the attention of the rest of the audience. Thank you. Michael, may I ask you, after this very insightful and comprehensive look onto the market and the previous stop at the various business models, that we are now start taking a look at some of the nitty-gritty with regards to these business models? Unless there are other urging, burning questions before. The chat tells me no so far.
No, I think that we had, was there not another a pause planned in between, or you want to continue straight into the business models? Hello?
We continue straight away, Michael, if it's fine with you. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, so then I'm going to just share the screen again. Sorry, I just have to see how I can do a share screen.
Don't worry while you do that. I will also encourage all of the participants to not be shy to ask their questions. Another thing that I want to point out, and this is also bridging the gap again between this study that Sense did on behalf of ComCashew as part of the Trilateral Corporation, is that we are currently exploring the possibility of providing a more in-depth question and answer session for people who are interested in exploring business opportunities with regards to the cashew apple. We will organize and we will inform this group accordingly in the course of next week about the exact dates. We will be organizing a comprehensive training on questions centering around cashew apple. This will be done with the previously before mentioned colleagues from Embrapa, and we will be organizing this probably in the third week of October. We will still confirm it also through these channels. This will be directed also at people who are interested and have burning questions when it comes actually towards underlying technical and economic parameters of their business model to cashew apple. We will set this up in a way that we will also ask you to provide your questions beforehand, which would then allow us and our experts to prepare this session accordingly. Just a bit of a teaser and to tell you that there will be a continuation towards this subject. Michael, can I turn back over to you, please?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was just trying to sort out a logistical issue in plugging in my battery and being in a different location where I need a converter plug. So I'm hoping that somebody can bring a converter plug soon enough. Sorry, I'm just trying to, the business models. So the first business model I want to have a look at is the aggregator. Is Apple aggregate. So what does this model look like? We have a cashew apple aggregator. So that's somebody who trains a harvesting team. And the team comes to the orchard. They harvest the cashew for free for farmers in return for the apple. The idea is that the advantage of the farmer is that he has got his harvesting for free, and the aggregator then gets his hand on the apple, which he can sell to a pre-processor. Okay, sorry, just this. Yeah. So then this aggregator then transports it to an exporter warehouse, where the apple and the nut get sold to an exporter and to a pre-processor. And the pre-processor will separate the nut from the apple. And one aggregator, we assume, can service maybe about 25 hectares of orchards. And a minimum of 20 aggregators need to be connected to one warehouse or a pre-processor. Now, what is the key operational and financial data? The scale of this thing is 10 tons of kernel sold at 4 Ghana cedis. And that brings 50 tons of cashew apple. And they sell this to a exporter pre-processor at 20 pesewa. They sourced from 25 hectares. That's what we assume they need to get to these numbers. Assuming an average yield of 400 kilograms of nuts and 2,000 kilograms of apple per hectare. And in some areas, this will be lower. In other parts of Ghana, this will be higher. Then the revenue is about 10,000 Ghana cedi from the apples. And the harvesting labor and transfers cost about 6,000 cedis. So this person can make a margin of 3,600 cedis. The investment cost is about 11,000 Ghana cedi for a tricycle and 100 picking crates. Now, what are the advantages for the different stakeholders? And So first of all, for the farmer, it's free harvesting, and that saves him half Ghana CD per kilogram of kernels, which is 12.5 to 15% of his revenue. In Ivory Coast, the harvesting costs are 25 to 30% of his revenues. Then the other advantage for the aggregator is that he has a guaranteed access to the crop. So he can make a bit of money on this story, but yeah, the biggest advantage is that he has the guaranteed access to the crop. Then for the kernel exporter, he can get his hands on the kernels, for which he can get additional income from pre-processing. And then what are the potential investors? Those are a kernel exporter, aggregator, and a pre-processor. Now, I've got in front of me 4 converter plugs. None of them seem to work for getting this into a South African plug. So, I'm just trying to see. Barry, is there a possibility that you can take this over before my laptop is out of battery?
Yeah, sure. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, yeah. So the advantages for the stakeholders, as Michiel was saying, the aggregator can effectively do the collection of the cashew nuts for free because he's taking the apples as his compensation. And then the exporter and so on, there's improvement in the quality and a guarantee that they will get the kernels. The next model, which is the apple pre-processor, the idea that Michiel was talking a lot about earlier in respect of, in respect of the marketing process, you need to have a pre-processing network, preferably. Can you see me?
Yes, we see you.
Hi.
Yes, we do.
Hi, everybody. Yeah. So the idea is that you have a network of pre-processors who supply to somebody who makes concentrate, which is then used to make mass market juices for the Ghanaian or the regional market, as well as potentially for export to Brazil as a way of opening up the processing market effectively. So as a pre-processor, you need to get enough cashew apples in a very, very short space of time. It's very important that the apples arrive within 4 or 5 hours of being picked. If the nuts are on the apples and the apples are picked from the tree, you can extend that to 12 hours, which means that you need to process the same day. So the pre-processor will process and then pack. And unfortunately, at this stage, that involves preservatives, which are required to stabilize the juice for about a 3 to 4 day period, during which time the pre-processors need to supply at least 50,000 liters to a concentrating plant. Otherwise, they can't start up the process. It's too low a volume. So ideally, we'd have numerous processors supplying that sort of volume on a daily basis. So business model 3, the juice plant itself, which does various other juices, could add cashew as a potential flavor. And in Ghana, the market would obviously suggest that cashew be a part of it with a what we call a functional value, that being that it's a local flavor, totally natural, and has a whole lot of health benefits. So the juicing plant would then concentrate the juice and put it in dissected drums for export, or I've moved on a slide, or for local consumption. So the current market price seems to be 1,580 USD for triple concentrate. Generally, that is to Brazil. When I say current price, that's the price in Brazil, because there isn't any export from Ghana currently. the minimum scale of 2 tons of juice per batch. That's to start up the machine. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate. So if you have 2 suppliers, you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate.
And we have some very interesting 3-pin plugs in South Africa.
So if you have 2 suppliers,
where it's very difficult,
you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate.
And we have some very interesting 3-pin plugs in South Africa.
So if you have 2 suppliers,
where it's very difficult,
you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate.
And we have some very interesting 3-pin plugs in South Africa.
So if you have 2 suppliers,
where it's very difficult,
you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate.
We have some very interesting 3-pin plugs in South Africa.
So if you have 2 suppliers,
where it's very difficult,
you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate.
We have some very interesting 3-pin plugs in South Africa.
So if you have 2 suppliers,
where it's very difficult,
you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate.
We have some very interesting 3-pin plugs in South
So
Africa.
if you have 2 suppliers,
Where it's very difficult,
you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate.
We have some very interesting 3-pin plugs in South
So
Africa.
if you have 2 suppliers,
Where it's very difficult,
you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing plant per day for it to be able to operate.
We have some very interesting 3-pin plugs in South
So
Africa.
if you have 2 suppliers,
Where it's very difficult,
you can deliver.
Harry, maybe it's an idea if you share your screen.
The minimum scale.
If my battery runs out, I can log into a different computer, but at least I don't use the screen.
Machine. Okay. We've discussed this, but basically that means that is the minimum that they can send to the juicing
also for the audience. So I would like to take a few minutes also highlight that this is still work in progress. We from Cashew somehow strong arm our very willing partners of festival development to present the results to a wider audience in order to stimulate also discussion a little bit ahead of time. So a lot of input also. Again, I would like to
And I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Sheu Salau. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. About the proof of concept and feasibility. And I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Sheu Salau. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Some of them are more proven about the proof of concept and feasibility. And I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Sheu Salau. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Some of them I imagine, where can we test these things out? Proven about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Sheu Salau. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Proven about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Sheu Salau. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Proven about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Cashew Alliance. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Even about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Cashew Alliance. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Even about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Cashew Alliance. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Even about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Cashew Alliance. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Even about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Cashew Alliance. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Even about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Cashew Alliance. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Even about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from Cashew Alliance. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I imagine, where can we test these things out? Even about the proof of concept, and I think there's also a question on the Q&A from
Brazilian researchers and practitioners have already established with regards to that, but also what are the structural changes that need to accompany private sector drive in order to make turning this potential into opportunity. I would like to close today's session by thanking all the presenters, Michiel and his team, Jerry, Anim from MOFA, ACA for hosting all of this. And I would like to pass the word back to Blessing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Florian, for moderating the session. Thanks to our participants for tuning in and joining us again today. The platform will be left open for the next 30 minutes for networking. Share your name, the name of your organization, your email address, or your telephone number. Let's network. Please note that the next side event of the 14th ACA Annual Cashew Conference will be held on Friday. Coming Friday, we will have the next side event at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. GMT, and it's going to be on women in cashew. So we are going to have Cashew Women's Call. The topic we'll be discussing is leadership training for women in cashew.
And this session will be moderated by Yasmin Kumi. Friday, the 25th of September at 9 a.m. GMT, the next side event of the ACA's 14th Annual Cashew Conference takes off. On Friday, 9 a.m. GMT, and it's leadership training for women. If you know any woman in Cashew, please inform them that for her on Friday, the 25th of September at 9 a.m. Moderating the session will be Yasmin Kumi. The platform will be left open for 30 minutes for networking. Please share your notification, your email address, and your contact. Let's network. Thank you very much for joining us today, and see you again on Friday.